We're back here on One-on-One heading into the 12 o'clock hour, and we have another interview for you here today. Deborah Larkin, the former Women's Sports Foundation CEO. She's joining us right now. Thank you so much, Deborah, for taking some time with us.
Great. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you as well. And obviously, you go back a few days ago, the 50th anniversary of Title IX. We're going to get to that in a bit, but I want to start with, obviously that's a great accomplishment and we have progressed, but a reminder of the last few days that we're not all the way there. And we've taken some steps back, particularly with Roe v. Wade getting overturned. So while we, celebrate a historic achievement in Title IX, having reminders like this that we still have a ways to go, just wondering what have been your thoughts on how everything's unfolded in the last kind of few days, few weeks here.
Stunning, shocking. Even though we knew once the court was so conservative and we knew it was just a matter of time, it's excuse me, but I liken it to having a family member terminally ill and you're feeling terrible, but the day that person dies is just grabs you. And that's why we're seeing so many people who are demonstrating and not going to take this lying down. I mean, it's been a week in the courts of extraordinary decisions, but President Biden also came out with some new regulations regarding Title IX in different areas, which is good. But most important, the first 50 years have come, and now we start at the bottom again. And we work hard. I mean, that's one thing, women and people who agree that discrimination has got to go and we need equality for everyone. We fight every day and we will win.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Deborah. And thank you again for joining us and having this conversation. And I wanted to just ask too on a more basic level. We obviously here as Fordham students, we have, we hear about Title IX a lot and the importance it has for our college athletes. Could you just share a little bit more about what Title IX is for the people who might not know and the value that it has for females in sports?
Yeah, can I give just a little bit of background? About 50 years ago when this came, this was a time when a woman couldn't get a credit card on her own without having her husband or her banker sign for her. In many states, we couldn't sit on jury duties. It was said that women who went to college were there to get their MRS, and that our job was to raise children and just be in the home. In classrooms, there were quotas. Girls took home ec, had to take home ec, and boys had to take a shop. And when boys played sports, girls square danced. So the time was very different. And most people, and we're talking about sports today, but I just want to also say that Title IX is much broader than sports. It was really enacted so that there would be equality in the classroom. So girls could take what is now all the STEM courses and higher education and get scholarships, not just athletic scholarships, but all kinds of scholarships, because we weren't afforded that. So we really started on the ground floor. Not even many schools at having PE. And the statistics are startling. When we started that in 72, fewer than 300,000 girls nationwide played sports, and now that's over 3 million. And in college, the numbers have gone from 30,000 to 276,000. In the Olympics, we went from not having the same number of sports or the same opportunities, that in 2020 that girls kind of outnumbered or very close to outnumbering the guys, and we got 58% of the scholarships. So that's some of the statistics in there, so you can see that we really have come a long way, baby. And so now we're allowed to play, but it's not equal.
I wanted to stay on the topic of women's sports and in particular professional sports leagues, because you bring up how it's not equal. Obviously, the pay disparity is a huge issue, and in terms of just kind of closing that gap, in terms of making it equal in all facets of women's sports, what are some of the ways you think we can kind of help make it make it more equal and close that gap overall for professional sports leagues?
Yeah. Well, you two in particular can do more programs about women's sports. And I say that as the microcosm of the media attention that is given to women's sports. With the exception of the Olympics, we're at a dismal 4% of all coverage of women's sports. And we know the adage, you can be what you can see. So when girls can see other girls and women competing, then they want to do the same thing. And that happens when boys see boys competing, that can happen the same thing. The other thing, so we need to have more money allocated to women's sports. And how does that happen? That happens at the culture of how we view women athletes and women in society has to be that we are number one in sports, right? That sports is not just acceptable, but it's important for boys that it is for girls. Now, the research says that parents believe that because they really know the advantages that girls have when they do play sports, not only on the playing field, not only because they can get scholarships, but because they can get terrific jobs outside. There's research that says 94% of women in the C-suites are athletes. So there is a lot of reason. Secondly, or thirdly, I've got a million reasons, but say that now corporate America is starting to change, that they are trusting that if they have women athletes as spokespeople, that will be a good representation for their brand, and that they are paying these athletes so that more people are seeing women athletes in various sectors of society, which is really important. But we have to show corporations to beef up their sponsorships and trust that people will watch and participate in sports. That started to happen in golf now, that the US Open, I think, doubled their prize money, which is really important. We know what happened with US soccer, and that is terrific, that it is equal. But then if you look at Brittany Griner, who is the biggest, greatest woman in basketball, she, along with 50% of other WNBA athletes, have to play overseas in order to have the kind of living wage that they're looking for. So we've got a long way to go, and mostly it's to keep changing the culture to say that watching women's sports, being in women's sports, seeing women as coaches, seeing women as commissioners, women as owners is commonplace and acceptable.
Yeah, I think I love what you mentioned there in a lot of ways. And something I think is always so impressive about female athletes is they've never been hesitant to speak their voice and to contribute to a lot of, fighting for social advancement. I think something that's so interesting is the Women's Sports Foundation in particular, works with a number of different female athletes in making that change happen. So I was curious, and you kind of alluded to it there, if you could talk a little bit more about what you would say about the female athletes that are fighting some of these challenges and how important it is to have those authentic voices kind of leading this way for change.
It's huge. And I just want to tell one story, if I may. It's a little historically. We might remember the 1960 games when Tommy Smith and, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name, two Black athletes got on the stand and raised their fist and had a glove. At the same time, Wyoming Attias, a phenomenal track and field athlete, wore black shorts on the stage. Nobody commented about what she did, but commented about them. So my point is twofold. One is the men still get the attention, but two, women have been speaking out forever. As we know, Billie Jean King has, and Donna DiVerona, and many athletes. So the WNBA, Naomi Osaka, all have been speaking out. But in college sports, a very authentic thing happened last year, and that was with Sedona Prince. She was a University of Oregon basketball player, and she's at the Final Four. And she takes a picture on her phone, and she shows the size of the equipment room, the weight room that the women have. And it was probably 10 by 20. Right. And then she shows the picture of the men's weight room. And it was literally, they took over a ballroom in a hotel. Yeah. And she talked to her teammates, what should they do? And as a team, and she was the spokesperson, she posted that video and it went viral. And not only did it go viral, it went super viral and ended up in the laps of the NCAA. And they really were on the hot seat. They spent a lot of money and hired Kaplan Law Firm to write a very big report. And the result was that there were changes made. And so when you ask how important that is and about being authentic, oh boy, was that authentic. Just like Naomi Osaka when she wore the masks. And oh boy, was that authentic. And you're making me think of something because and I'd like to talk in a while about a new national campaign called Demand 9 that's bringing all aspects of Title IX together. But USA Today came up with a very interesting article not long ago, and it looked at over 100 major universities in the country, and it showed how they were skirting the law and by padding rosters. And in track and field, for example, if one athlete ran indoor track or winter track, spring track, and cross country, they were counted as 3 people, even though it's only 1. In rowing, if somebody showed up for an initial meeting or another meeting but never rowed, they were counted on the rosters. And in women's basketball, the guys who were practice partners were counted on the women's roster. Now, to me, that's very authentic, and it is as real and doesn't take a lot of explaining about the inequity of that. Yeah. But perhaps because it isn't a person, it hasn't gathered the same kind of attention that what happened with Sedona. But there's going to be another Sedona Prince coming up because the inequities in 2022 are still there, just as basic.
Right. And it's crazy to fathom, we're joined with Deborah Larkin, that it even got to that point to where social media had to kind of bring that to the light here. And just, from me and Alex's perspective, obviously we don't face these same, hardships and discriminations. You've spent over 35 years in this field helping the fight for, women equality. What are some of the ways you think people like us who want to help and understand all these discriminations and, missed opportunities can help to bridging this gap and making things easier for women in sports and just overall?
Well, keep your eyes open and really take a look at what is going on. As I said, the first 50 years, we've made a lot of accomplishments, but who have been the beneficiaries of those accomplishments? And quite frankly, they've been more white girls. And that BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color, really have not seen the benefits. And especially if girls who come from underprivileged schools, rural America, where they aren't given the same opportunities, don't have the same resources, there isn't the same kind of funding. So have people learn about Title IX. You can have a show that tells people where they can go. If they want to know how Title IX connects with them, it's sad. 60% of people surveyed said they don't know what Title IX is. 75% of students don't know, but they know what discrimination is. And they want things to be fair. And even if they're fair for themselves, they want the person next to them to have the same kind of opportunity. So it's our job to teach people that there is that connection with Title IX, right? That when you see the discrimination, you can go to resources that tell you about how Title IX can change that. And you've given me the perfect opportunity to talk about a national campaign that I've helped leading that is with the Women's Sports Foundation, the National Women's Law Center, and the Billie Jean King Leadership Initiative. It's called Demand 9. And the idea came from, we've all been happily bombarded with reports and stories and research around the 50th anniversary. But they've all been individual. What Demand 9 is doing is bringing all those stories together and gaining 100 partners partners that range from the AFL-CIO to the Ford Foundation to Parity to Athlete Ally to the UN Women, 100 partners to spread the word about Demand 9, which is bringing people together, signing a pledge to keep enforcement strong for Title IX, so that when we go to Congress, when we go to the Office of Civil Rights, we can say, you see, these million people plus more know about and care about Title IX, and we want you to do your job to get it passed. Importantly, we're having efforts on college campuses, in high school, among youth sports, to also let them understand what how Title IX can benefit them. On our website, we have a lot of resources that people can go to, because it's the students that have to make the changes. You know, they're the next generation that has to do that. So we're giving them the resources so they can go to their athletic directors, they can go to the presidents, they can go to the board of governors and say, wait a minute, this is what's happening at my middle school, my high school, my college. It's not fair. I don't want to sue you, but I want you to do the right thing. You know, we deserve it. And so that's, sorry to spout off, but I get very excited. No. I get very excited about this, and very excited about Demand 9, because it's also a campaign. I don't know that there's been a campaign like this that has brought so many of a variety of organizations together. They're not just thinking about their own brand. We are definitely promoting their own brands and their own information on the site, but they've come together recognizing that, wow, this could really make a difference. And the other difference is that we're doing it throughout the year. So it might be in 3 or 4 days that people aren't talking about Title IX so much, not just because of what else is going on, but because that's what happens with news cycles. So having Demand 9 in the public eye will help to educate, and then we want to change the culture. So you personally, please have more of these kind of events. There are a lot of us out there who could help find speakers for you, subject matter, or you can go on the Demand 9 website. I hope that you would take the pledge. And for wanting, it doesn't cost you any money. It just takes 20 seconds to sign. And it's just saying that you agree that there should be fairness for everybody, and you want to promote protections and enforcement of Title IX.
That sounds incredible.
Will you two take the pledge?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask, do you have the link that people can go to that you want to share that people know?
Yes, it's Demand 9, Roman numeral 9.com.
Got it.
And that takes you to our website. I don't offhand, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm better at talking than doing this stuff, but I can get it to you. That takes you exactly to the link. And but if you scroll through the Demand 9 website, which is really cool, I think you'll see that, it was developed by a fabulous firm that does social impact work, and they're young, Hispanic based, and it's great working with the new generation, and the graphics show it and show that it's really directed to younger people. But so scroll down on the website, you'll see all the partners that are involved, and you'll see so many of the resources that are on the site, and you will see the place to sign the pledge.
We'll go find that. We'll tweet that out. We'll put it in the description and get it out as many people.
I can follow up with you. I just can't do it while I'm talking.
Of course. Yeah, no problem.
I'm not your generation, you know. I need my I need my daughter here to help.
No problem. And thank you, Deborah, so much for taking some time with us. Really, important, impactful words that we really appreciate you, saying on this platform.
Well, thank you for thinking it's important enough to do.
Of course. So we are going to be back after a quick break. We're going to go back to the NBA here and shift over with Julia with some headlines. So stay tuned for that on more One-on-One.